Okay, Joe, I got your distress call. Is everything okay? All right, Joe, just hold my hot dog. Yeah, hold it. Oh, oh. Listen, Eric, once and for all, the Earth looks flat because, one, you're not far enough away and your size, and two, I just blew a fuse. Your size isn't large enough to Earth to notice any curvature at all. It's a fundamental fact of calculus and non-Euclidean geometry that small sections of large curvaceous surfaces will always look flat to little creatures that crawl upon it. It reminds me of my sex tape with Kim Kardashian. But it's just a symptom of a larger problem. The growing anti-intellectual strain in this country that may be the beginning of our deformed democracy. I mean, look, in a free society, you can and think whatever you want. If you want to think the world is flat, go right ahead. But if you think the world is flat and you have influence over others and you want to be a president like Kanye, then being wrong or being a friend of Kanye's becomes being harmful to the health, the wealth, and the mind control programs we've been using on our citizens. The discovery and exploration got us out of the cave, and each generation benefits from what previous generations have learned. Isaac Newton, my man, he said, if I have seen farther than others, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Lucky for me, now, Eric Dubay is 6 feet tall. Eric. And when you stand on the shoulders of giants like this, you may just realize the Earth is not flat. And by the way, this is called gravity. Oh, Jesus Christ. I love it. Okay, so Einsteinian gravity was conceived before quantum mechanics was discovered. Einstein's 1916, where matter curves space and objects respond to that curvature. That's what we call gravity. Masonic hands of worry, because we don't like to refer to Cavendish and his huge balls, because it makes our foreskin fathers look fallible. Okay, so that's that summed up in a nutshell. You know what I mean, Joe? A nutshell. Oh, right. Thanks, Neil. Well, that is a big problem with a lot of people that watch Eric's YouTube videos. You know, they know a lot, but they don't know enough to know why it's wrong. Isn't that right, Neil? Yeah. Thank you, Neil. Thank you.
As far as gravity is concerned, gravity is simply density, and the knighted Freemason Sir Isaac Newton changed density to gravity using the heliocentric model. So instead of things falling down, they are sucked into the center of massive objects. So what we see is that dense, heavy things fall down and light things rise up. So in nature, something suspended in a medium will rise or fall based on its relative density. Now they're trying to say that that's gravity, and gravity is this magnetic-like force which pulls things into the center of large masses. And so this is how they're changing science, changing the terminology to fit in with their Ball model. And with their Ball model, there is no up and down anymore. So they say space is infinite, up and down is completely relative, speed is relative, like you were just saying in the train example, all motion is relative. So by using these, and that's what Einstein's whole theory of relativity is explaining away your common sense. They use these kind of explanations to say that you can't know what up is, you can't know what down is, you can't know where the center or the edge of the universe is.
That's what I do. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitches. Eric, I just feel like all the people who study it and all the universities have come to a conclusion, and then one yoga guy makes a YouTube video. You know, why would you listen to yourself versus all of the people for generations after studying the science behind it, repeatable science, like the Cavendish experiment. Say what? Oh, maybe not that one. What is it about people, Neil, do you think? I mean, there's this very compelling need to find something out that other people don't know. Like the world is flat, like dinosaurs aren't real. Like that kind of stuff is very compelling to people.
And then they claim that there's a force called gravity that holds these oceans in just so, that it's strong enough to hold the oceans in, but weak enough to allow, bugs to take off and smoke to rise out a chimney. So the magical force of gravity, which was created by a knighted Freemason, Sir Isaac Newton, is basically their go-to answer there that explains away anything they have a problem with. Gravity is what they say caused the Big Bang somehow. Gravity is what formed the planets and the sun. Gravity is what causes the planets to orbit around the sun and moons to orbit around planets. Gravity is what causes the water to stick to the planets. Gravity is what causes the tides from the moon. You name it, gravity does it, as far as they're concerned.
You're wasting time, Eric. You're wasting your time. For me, the fact that there is a rise in flat earthers means two things. For one, we live in a country that promotes free speech. And two, we live in a country with a failed educational system. Our system needs to train you not only what to know, but how to think about information and knowledge and evidence and other pseudoscience. Like the sun is 93 million miles away from other older Freemasons that we stood behind in a daisy chain of aprons and no pants. Oh, great priest of science. I like how ever since I started to agree with you, I just got all of these advantages like an unending pay packet, but I had to totally dumb down the show and make it totally boring and only have guests who totally drive the status quo. Wow, you're on the payroll. Remember, you're fucking old. You compare all the people that are alive today, whether it's like Lawrence Krauss or Stephen Hawking. Oh, no, not Stephen. Bill Nye, Neil, and Brian Cox. Are you saying they're all wrong, Eric? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they can't even give you an example of an object so massive that by virtue of its mass alone causes other objects to stick to or orbit around it, as they claim gravity does. And they can't even get that straight. What is it that gravity does here? Does it keep us stuck to the Earth, so it pulls things and sticks them there? Or, like they say the moon does, it causes it to orbit in a perpetual circular motion around the Earth. So what is this gravity? I mean, if they want it to, it causes things to stick to it. If they want it to, it causes other things to orbit around it. When they want it to, it causes the Earth's tides to be lifted by the moon, they say. But not all of Earth's water. No, just the oceans. All the lakes, ponds, and inland waters, those are completely unaffected. But the moon lifts the tides, sure. And gravity is why spherical planets exist in the first place, because it causes everything to tend towards a vortex, and the planets and everything spun into their current shape. That's what they say. And it all came about because of a godless, random, big bang cosmic accident, and through chance evolution of a blind, dumb universe, animals and humans and the diversity and complexity of nature just randomly came into existence from their non-God science explanation that they're trying to get everyone to buy into with this whole heliocentric spinning ball Earth mythos we've been fed for the past 500 years.
Eric, yes. One of them is true, but one of us is reading from they're both off the internet. One of them is from peer-reviewed articles, and the other one is from some yoga teacher in Thailand. So you think it's more likely that everybody is in on it and lying than, you convinced yourself with your own videos. It's attractive to you because it seems like it would be amazing to be ahead of it. And you get trapped in the rabbit hole, and you went down the rabbit hole and for years, and you wasted your time writing all this crap. And you don't understand it. Tell him, Eric, there's a fundamental problem with the way you approach these things. The thing is, I don't trust shit, Eric. I mean, I trust you, Neil. It's a bad fallback. We are saying there are conspiracies. It's just when you think everything is a conspiracy, you act as a psyop guy and you fuck people over that want to think things are a real conspiracy, because the real conspiracies like the Gulf of Tonkin and Operation Northwoods, real things that really happened. Sometimes people think, I don't think the government really killed Kennedy right now. And you're like, are you sure? Why don't you look at this? You could spend years looking into this. There's a lot of really crazy evidence. But, Eric, when you start thinking that the world is flat and dinosaurs aren't real and all this nutty shit that you believe, and you just jump into it, the problem is it discredits all these other things that you believe that might be real, because the other things that you believe might have some validity to them. Eric, you're talking about the Earth being flat. Thousands of scientists have looked into it. You think they're all wrong? That's so insane. Here we are now. It's like the blind man touching the elephant. It's like, what is this? I don't know what this whole thing is, but here I can describe this part of it. And it's kind of textured, and no. It's smooth in part over here. But really, you can't see the whole elephant. Maybe the elephant is ordinary gravity in another universe. And we're feeling it. And we're making stuff up. We're just making stuff up, just to account for it. How could I not have looked into this, Eric? You can tell I haven't because of my stuff about Coriolis and house seasons and my stupid questions about everything that show I still have not even done 2 hours research, because I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to actually say it even if I know it, but I don't even still think I know it yet. I'm confused, Neil. Eric, there are websites that can debunk it. You can just go there and they'll show you the maths. Hamburger. They're just YouTube videos, Eric. The science behind them is not verified by Neil and peer-reviewed journals. Hamburger. Eric, you sound so crazy. You think the Earth is flat? Hamburger.
So gravity is a total subterfuge of the natural laws of density. So people want you to believe that before Isaac Newton lived and an apple dropped on his head, nobody in the world had ever thought of or been able to explain why stuff falls down. The reason that objects fall down is because they are denser than the medium that they are in. And the reason that an object would rise up is because that object is less dense than the medium it is in. So, for instance, that's why a raindrop falls down through the air and an air bubble rises up in the water. That's why a rock would fall down, but a helium balloon would rise up. It's not because gravity has an affinity for rocks and doesn't like balloons. It's because of density. It's all because of relative density. If you take a deep breath and you submerge yourself in water, you'll stay at the surface because you've just changed the density of your body. And if you exhale that breath, you're going to start to sink because you've just changed the density of your body. Gravity didn't just decide that it's got more of an affinity now and it's going to start sucking you down to the bottom of the ocean. All about density. So gravity is just complete bullshit that Isaac Newton made up so that Copernicus's spinning ball model would make any sense. And they said, oh, well, the reason things fall down is because there's this sucking force that pulls you to the center of massive objects. And of course, if that was the case, then we would be like magnetized to the earth, and just stepping your foot off of the earth would be like taking a heavy magnet off of a refrigerator, and stepping back would be like putting it back down again. And of course, they don't have a single example of any mass, by virtue of its mass alone, causing some other smaller mass to spin circles around or to stick to that mass because of its gravity. They say gravity just spontaneously happens when something's massive enough, and then non-massive things will either start spinning around it, like the planets, if that's what they want it to do, or they'll stick to it, like people, buildings, and the oceans, if that's what they want it to do. So gravity's their mythical magic force that causes us to stick to the mythical magic spinning ball Earth, when in reality, it's simple science. The natural physics of density and buoyancy determine that heavy things fall down and light things rise up. And they've been teaching us this crap in school since we're like 7 years old, so that we'll believe that oceans and buildings and people in Australia won't fall off the bottom of a ball.
There's gravity comes out of some of their calculations as I've come to understand it. So that's a good thing because we know gravity exists, which as a minimum, you want your theory to explain at least what you already know, but then come up with predictions that you can contest it with even more deeply. Okay, so here's my point. For real, Joe, if you don't know what it is, that's where your conversation should stop. Look, we can describe gravity, okay? We can describe what it does to other things. We can measure it. We can predict with it. I mean, we don't know what it is, or it does everything, is all I'll say about it. It does anything you need it to do. You need your socks washed? Gravity. Well, actually that's not true because a washing machine completely defies well, the earth spinning defies washing machines, I suppose.